on the video.
Welcome to Wales Tech Week 2021. Thank you to our partners. Enjoy the session.
4, 3, 2.
Hi, good afternoon, and welcome to our session this afternoon where we're going to be talking about how we make Wales a global tech hub. I'm delighted to be joined today with three fantastic entrepreneurs in their own right, as well as with one who's going to talk in a moment on video for us on behalf of her business. But firstly, let me introduce quickly everyone in the room. So first of all, we've got Dr. Andrew Nelson, who's the President, OBE, Chief Executive of IQE PLC, and he'll give us a few moments' time, an introduction to his business. And then also joined here on my left by Sina Yamani, who's a founder and CEO of Yoello, which is a Wales-based global fintech business that is expanding very quickly. And lastly, by Tony Trussell, who's the Corporate Development Officer for Creo Medical, based out in East Gwent, a place known well to me in Chepstow. I'll just quickly pass it over, first of all, to Drew, who's going to give you a quick intro.
Yeah, thanks very much. So I'm Drew Nelson. I'm a co-founder and chief exec of IQE PLC. It's based in St Mellons, and I'm also investor and chairman of Newport Wafer Fab, which is based in Dufferin and makes silicon chips. IQE makes a family of materials called compound semiconductors. They are different to silicon. If you can imagine silicon and compound semiconductors, they're both semiconductor materials. Silicon is the simpler and has been around for much longer. Compound semiconductors are the kind of new kid on the block, if you like, even though they've been around for 30 years or so. But they enable many more features and properties that are impacting on our everyday lives, whether it's through global communications, optical fiber, broadband, whether it's through mobile handsets or through satcoms. All of these things are the domain of compound semiconductors.
Sina?
Thanks, David. I'm Sina Yamani, the founder and CEO of Yoello. Started the business a few years ago in the payments fintech space, the only business in the UK in the order and pay space that's regulated by the FCA. So we're building these cool technologies mainly around QR codes, allowing people to pay instead of by cash or by card through their mobile phones. It's a quickly changing space, moving away into the digital space. And you might have used our platform before. You might have seen QR codes on tables or in shops, and you just scan it easily with your phone and just pay that way. And it's a rapidly growing business. We've grown from this time last year. There's about 5 of us. Now there's about 60 of us. So yeah, it's a good time to be in the space. We're also building open banking products, which basically connect customers, businesses to their bank accounts directly, skipping a host of intermediaries that enable businesses to save a significant amount on their transaction fees. But it's been a good year for us. We've helped a lot of businesses over the last year, obviously with COVID, social distancing, hospitality is around bringing people together, and obviously with social distancing, it's a difficult time. So it's great that our platform enabled mobile, digital, and contactless payments that helped businesses to kind of trade during these tough times.
Thanks, Sina. Tony?
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Tony Trussell. I'm the Corporate Development Officer at Creo Medical. My job at Creo is to help Creo grow through partnering ventures and acquisitions, basically to make the business go stronger, faster, at lower risk. Before that, I was responsible for a corporate finance team at Ernst & Young and advised a few technology businesses in the area, including SPTS and companies like Pure Wafer. Creo Medical is an advanced energy medical technology company that has Comaptive technology, which is put inside a platform, a generator, and then a range of very tiny devices that enable the most minimally invasive surgery. So our first product is something called the Speedboat, which allows it's to treat problems in the gastrointestinal tract. So for example, removal of lesions in the colon to be done endoscopically as broadly an outpatient treatment instead of having a piece of your colon removed laparoscopically or in open surgery. So massive benefits. We've shown in studies that it can save the NHS £10,000 an operation, save up to 4 days in hospital, be treated in an outpatient department rather than in the theatre. So that's fantastic. We've got other products which are involved in the ablation of tumours, and we recently announced the first in-human treatment of a guy that had a pancreatic tumour ablated by putting a needle in a duodenoscope down the throat and into the back of the stomach, and minimally invasive, about a 30-minute procedure just to ablate the tumour, which is otherwise a really big operation if you're fit enough for it. So we basically looked for big unmet and poorly met needs around the world in surgery and large markets, and then we've worked out how we can bring technologies. Quite a lot of the technologies are from some of the compound semiconductors that Drew talked about. How we can bring those technologies into the medical world better, and then take them around the world and apply them to populations. The key thing we're interested in is making it better for the patient, making it lower cost for the provider, the hospital, the payer, and making it better for the physician, either in terms of expanding the skill base, making it easier to do, or just widening the pool of surgeons, physicians that are out there able to do the procedures. So we're driven by one thing, and that's to treat the patient. So that's Creo.
Great, thank you. Thanks, everybody. So over the next 35 minutes, we're going to get into a conversation with everyone in the room about, how they think about developing Wales as a global tech hub, but also their learnings and experiences of building their businesses and currently building their businesses out, and what their learnings are along that journey. And by all means, please feel free to fire in questions, which we can also pose live to everybody in the room. But before we go further, we were also lucky enough to have Joanna Schwarz, who's the CEO of Moneypenny, which is one of the world's leading answering phone services. And Joanna's been kind enough to make a video for us just to explain a little bit about her experiences and learnings on behalf of all of us in Global Welsh. If I pass it over now to Joanna, she'll have a VT for everybody to enjoy. This is about 5-6 minutes before we come back to the room and have a bit of an interactive Q&A. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Joanna Swash. I'm the CEO of Moneypenny here in Wrexham. Thanks so much for inviting me today to do this video. Tech Week is a wonderful opportunity to bring together leading figures in the global tech community to discuss how tech can transform businesses, just like ours, lives and careers, particularly in Wales. We are so passionate about our Moneypenny story, about our technology, and it's just a real pleasure to be able to share that with you today. So we are here in Wrexham, our 100,000 square foot building, complete with treehouse and pub, which is just incredible. And for us, it's all about keeping our people happy. We are the world's leading outsourced communications company, providing telephone answering and live chat to lots and lots of different businesses across so many different sectors. Live chat is something that we've had on the go for about 3 years now, and it's a real great product for businesses to be actually getting onto their websites and to be just enabling them to have this great technology that makes their business better. And we're delivering digital comms to business globally, working with state-of-the-art tech giants and marrying together brilliant humans and this extraordinary technology to create the gold standard for business and provide and enable our clients really to be able to provide brilliant customer service. Tech has been an absolutely integral part of our growth story, and it's enabled us to maintain our incredible culture, which is really important to us. We've got just over 1,000 people now, both in this facility here in Wrexham, our head office, our office in London, and also a recent acquisition in Atlanta, where we have just over 200 people there as well. So, tech has to play this enormous part for us in terms of keeping everybody together, making sure that they're engaged. One thing that we really do rely on is Workplace from Facebook. This is their intranet platform. If you haven't had a look at it, go and have a look at it. Particularly in the pandemic, it's just been absolutely critical to keeping everybody informed, making sure that we're all on the same page, that we can keep everybody engaged and happy, and just share good news and bad news, but we all be able to communicate together. We are also working with Microsoft Teams, Amazon, Twilio, and lots of other leading players, and it's always our belief that we are providing a service to smaller businesses, giving them access to these platforms that would usually be in the domain of big business. And for me, that's really critical in terms of how we could be a supplier of choice for businesses across so many different business sectors. At the start of our pandemic, we asked our clients what they need from us, so we were very keen to get their feedback to make sure that whatever we did over those critical next few months, we were delivering products and services that our clients actually needed at the time. We developed a digital switchboard service, which was a really cost-effective solution to people that clearly couldn't have their own in-house switchboard team answering calls as if usual, but they needed something that was really cost-effective. So we launched that free for 3 months for lots of clients. A COVID self-screening bot, particularly for the property sector, when they got back on their feet and they were able to go and do viewings and valuations, etc. Outbound calling, making sure that our clients actually could keep that book of business going and that their sales pipeline was still intact. So, and lots of other things as well. One of our key phrases was be brave and bold. You know, this was the time to make mistakes. And if you've got this team that are used to being self-motivated, confident, and not micromanaged in the slightest, then this was the time to almost set them free and enable them to do it. One of the things that the team did in the height of a pandemic was to go and create this national marketing campaign when nobody else was buying any ad space. Nobody would consider putting a full-page ad into the national papers, but we did, and it was an incredible thing to do. It was our Rethink the Office campaign, Rethink the way that your office works, and we're still carrying on with that now. We also went after radio, so we saw a big growth over the past 12 months, because let's face it, this has been the biggest shake-up of the past 100 years in terms of how people work and how offices work. And this is the moment for business leaders, all of us, to take a step back and to say, with a blank sheet of paper, how do I want my business to work? How can technology help us? What's out there that actually I just didn't know anything about before? And let's just all be brave and bold and go and embrace all the new things that are out there to help our businesses be more productive and more efficient. Growth, international growth is really, really important for us. We've grown 40% in the past 12 months. A lot of that is down to an acquisition, the Atlanta business. But funnily enough, we signed the deal for that at end of February 2020, and then of course could not get back to Atlanta. So we have remotely, through technology, we signed a lease on 30,000 square foot of office space on FaceTime. And if anybody would have told us before the pandemic that that was actually going to be an option, I would manage to get through the board. I think we'd have all been very surprised. We're recruiting all the time, so at the moment, even here in Wrexham, we've got 100 new jobs being created, because this is the moment that people are saying, how can outsourcing help my business? What can I do differently? And this is the market for us. So yeah, thanks for inviting me to share the Moneypenny story. I'm passionate about putting Wales on the map. Welsh businesses leading the way, particularly through technology, and we should all be proud how we're all working together to make the most of some exciting times of change that I'm sure are ahead of us, and how we learn our lessons and plan ahead. But so thank you so much, and thanks, bye-bye.
I hope everybody enjoyed that from Joanna. Great to see another example of a Welsh business not just being successful here nationally in Wales and the UK, but also internationalising. And if I can now, just turning to the room and the expertise in it, maybe start with you, Drew, actually. Just, your journey, building a phenomenal business, IQE. I think it was Wales's first actually unicorn business, over £1 billion in 2017 in terms of valuation. I saw that, we went through the journey of Shell venture capital and then stock market listing. I think one of the things everyone's interested here about is, your experience of fundraising and they're always curious to know what your learnings would be. So maybe it'd be great to get a sense of how you thought about that, how you shaped it on the journey of building IQE.
Yeah, as you say, we started life in 1988 with some venture money from Shell Ventures. They had made a lot of money from the North Sea oil, and Mrs. Thatcher, who was the Prime Minister at the time, encouraged them to invest in businesses, and we were their site on semiconductors, which were just becoming into the public domain through its impact on the internet. My career was in British Telecom, developing the fibre optic systems that are now commonplace in broadband, and that's what really is it allows the entire internet and global communications to work. So we came to Wales because there was availability of cash, of key resource, cash and property, and most importantly, people, because Cardiff University at the time had a quite strong position in semiconductors. So through the 90s, we grew on the back of the internet. We listed on the stock market in 1999, raised money through that.
How was that?
It was tough, but we had an exciting story to tell.
Yeah, right.
Because at the time we were merging with a company in the US, and that we focused on optical communications, materials for optical communications. The company in the US was focused on mobile communications, so wireless products, and so we merged the two, floated on the stock market. We had great success in that and raised money. We're a capital-intensive business, and we're in hard tech. And if you imagine the supply chain is making wafers. The wafers go to a chip company that makes the chips. The chips then go to a packaging company that puts all the packaging, and you get the little black box with all the legs on it. That ends up into the final product, whether it's in a car or whether it's in a laptop or whatever it is. And so it's quite a capital-intensive business. And how we expanded after we did a flotation and how we internationalized was through acquisition. We acquired a number of businesses in different parts of the world, in Singapore, in Taiwan, more in the US. And the reason for that was that in hard tech, it's very important to be really close to your customers. And that's got a number of dimensions to it, such as language. So in Taiwan, Singapore, if you're trying to deal with a Taiwanese chip company, having a Taiwanese wafer supply company is obviously so much easier than trying to sell it from the UK. So there's the language, there's the culture, there's the time zones, there's just practical logistics of shipping product from A to B. And so all of those things mean that being close to your customer, physically close to your customer in hard tech is actually pretty important. And that's one of the key lessons that we learned.
Did you always intend to do M&A, mergers and acquisitions, to grow, or did that something that organically develop as you're thinking as a founder and as a CEO?
No, that was the strategy of internationalization. We wanted to grow in terms of scale, and IQE is now the largest supplier of compound semiconductor wafers in the world. Yeah. We employ 650 people. We turn over close to 200 million. So we've grown the business by that, and it's given us an international reputation. And by reputation, it also reflects back on Wales. And so one of the big learnings was being close to your customers. Now, we're actually applying that learning now, in that instead of us going to customers with our business, we obviously want to be, we're headquartered here in Wales. We've now started to try and bring customers to Wales.
Right.
So that the customers are close to us. What we found was we were exporting 99% of the products that we made. And export's fantastic, but really, if you have a really big home market, that's much better than having to export it. And so one of the things we've done over the past 6 or 7 years is created what we've called a compound semi-cluster in South Wales. What we found was there were a number of parts of the supply chain. IQE was making wafers. Newport Wafer Fab, which was then called Infineon, was making chips. We had a company that were making the equipment used to make the chips called SPTS. And we had a packaging company called Microsemi and Caldecott, all in their individual silos. And we said, why not just get all these companies to work much more closely together, interact with Cardiff University and Swansea University, and build a complete ecosystem which can act as a sovereign supply chain to all of the downstream manufacturing industries in the UK, not just in Wales. The automotive industry, the aerospace industry, defence industry, healthcare industry, whatever it is. And so that's what we've done, and that cluster now employs 2,100 people. It's being internationally recognised. We have the Taiwan cluster of semiconductor companies is interacting very strongly with us. There's a big cluster in Arizona, which is also wanting to interact with us. So we're really the intent here is to put Wales very much on the semiconductor tech map on a global basis.
Great, thanks, Creo. And Sina, you're in an earlier stage sort of company evolution, but nevertheless growing really quickly and having your own experiences around sort of fundraising and internationalising. So, how's it been for you? Jumping forward to when you started your business, 18 months, 2 years ago?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a crazy journey and much earlier stage than Drew. I guess on the complete opposite side of the fundraising spectrum, I guess. I studied computer science at Cardiff University, and then straight away just wanted to get into something and saw this gap in the market. Everyone's still paying with cash and cards, and everything around us is digitizing. So clearly there was an empty space there that there'll be a huge opportunity for. So started building MVPs and funded the little prototype. Went out and had like a proper Dragon's Den style kind of fundraising. Go and meet 100 people, you network as much as you can, go to any event, take any opportunity.
And this was in Cardiff? Or?
This was all in Cardiff, yeah. So, you obviously go outside of Cardiff as well, but, the company was definitely born and bred here. And then after probably, a year or so, just trying to speak to anyone that was just listen to the idea. It's quite tough with no experience, no background, straight out of university, to kind of raise funding. But it's possible. I think anyone can do it.
How much have you raised today?
Today we've raised about 5 million.
Okay.
Over the course of 4 funding rounds.
And any institutional money, or has that been?
No, it's all through angel investors. Right. Yeah, so we're now getting to the institutional stage, which is great and exciting. Quite scary as well because they're much this is where the business starts to scale. So, as I mentioned, the platform is around mobile payments. So we went through that whole journey of getting regulated, going through the FCA, getting our licenses. So we're approved by the FCA, the Financial Conduct Authority, which allows us to do some of the cool payment stuff that we do. And then, we kind of set our operations across the UK, and through our partnerships, we're now in 7 different countries. And growing quickly.
How have you done that? How have you expanded internationally? That's been the key driver. So if Drew's was through M&A, how have you done it? So, I mean,
the technology that we're building is replacing all this legacy that all these huge incumbent banks and companies worth billions and billions, they're really slow. These tanks take a while to turn. And as the industry and, the society is shifting rapidly into mobile payments, the technology just isn't there, and these big companies, they can't build it quickly. So we partner up with a lot of them, and then we provide them our technology, and they can give it to their customers, and kind of everyone wins from that perspective. So through different kind of white label reseller opportunities, we found a number of partners that already have their presence internationally. So we provide them with the technology and all the gear, and then they kind of give it to their customers alongside ourselves. So we've kind of managed to rapidly scale that way globally, and over the next year or so, we're hoping to be in 20 different countries. So it's very fun. It's been interesting because normally,
what does the business turnover now? So 2 years in, away.
The business is turning over about 4 million now, so it's very early stages for us. Yeah.
Growing very quickly, obviously.
Growing very quickly. I mean, in the last year, we've had 1,000% growth. And obviously, throughout all of lockdown, as you can see, it impacts revenue significantly because, our primary business is around people paying for goods in hospitality venues. And that's all been shut down.
Slightly tricky.
Yeah. Some good stats, though. I mean, over the last, our first 10 million transactions for our platform took us 9 months. And the second 10 million that we did took us 5 weeks. Right. So it's a huge. And
who would be your competitors? Keep you awake at night if anybody does.
There's no one that keeps me awake at night. It's a big market. We're talking about, we're talking about money. Runs the planet, and if you're moving it around, then it's a good industry to be in. And all that is rapidly shifting right now. And there's not actually that many people in the space. I think in terms of Europe alone. You could split it happily with 1,000 competitors, and I think we'd all be unicorns. So it's an interesting time to be in. I think the fact that a lot of people think that we started this business as a result of COVID, but in fact, the idea is years all before that, and we haven't pivoted once actually. It's just kind of worked out really well, and the product that we have helps local communities. We've done a lot of work with the Welsh government, the local councils. We've done projects in which we've, there was one we did locally here at the castle. Obviously, businesses were all shut; they weren't allowed to trade, and we popped up this which they shut out Castle Street and essentially raised £500,000 for our platform for all the local businesses. This is the cool, innovative stuff that we've done around there, and obviously, as I mentioned earlier, around hospitality is bringing people together because our platform is contactless payments. It's been a safer way to pay over the last year or so, and the sentiment is going to stay. I mean, when you compare it to card alone, cash and card, it's just a payment vehicle. Whereas our platform is all mobile-based, and the feature set that comes with that, all the loyalty, the analytics, the efficiency that comes from both sides, both the customer journey and the merchant, is, it's hard to say that we're going to be going back to the way things were.
Oh, thanks, Sina. That's amazing. Well done. And Tony, Creo Medical's obviously, raised a significant amount of capital during its lifetime. So it'd be great to hear, your perspective on how you've seen that evolve over the last, I guess, 7-8 years.
Yeah. I think you need a genesis, and for us, the genesis is the founder, Chris Hancock. One of the nicest guys you'd meet, but Chris worked for Gyrus. Gyrus was bought by Olympus. Gyrus was in Cardiff, bought by Olympus for a big sum of money. And all the engineering and the R&D didn't stay in South Wales, and Chris left. And when he was travelling, he thought...
Where did it go?
Some went to the Olympics Corporation internationally, into Germany and places like that. But Chris went travelling, and he came back and he had an idea. I could do this. Two things I could do, really, or a number of things you can do. You can do lots, but microwave and safer bipolar radio frequency. It sounds... it's a more advanced energy form, better energy to deliver much more precise energy into tissues to have a much more precision effect. And I thought, I can do this, and I can treat things that aren't treated terribly well at the moment. So that was it. Chris was out of Gyrus, is also Professor of Medical Microwave Engineering at Bangor University. So a lot of people come through Bangor University into Creo on the back of this, and built great careers, or building great careers in Creo. And so you've got that technology spark, but then you need to spot you've got a big global market. So there's a lot of people in the world. It's getting bigger. They're getting older. A lot of them have got lifestyles which are creating increased prevalence of diseases, but then technology is there to sort of sort those diseases out and give them longer lives or better quality of life. So it's like money. It's a real big mass market business. It's like the chips that go into everything we use at the moment. It's a global market, so you have to be in a global market. And then it's probably worthwhile you check in with the key people in the industry around the world that actually what you've got does meet something they need, that there isn't something doing what you're doing at the moment. You've got this, so we're on unmet and poorly met clinical needs. And then we look in big markets, so colorectal, lung, there's not much done in lung, some really challenging cancers like soft tissue cancers, pancreas, liver, and we get to them in a minimally invasive way, preserve much more of a patient, give a really good patient outcome. So what we did, we created a board of key opinion leaders, and we went to them and said, what haven't you got? What can't you treat very well? What would make it better? And how can our technology work? So we got that feedback, and then back in, started developing it, which is a lot of technology development, but in medical devices, a lot of regulatory development, and a lot of tissue and clinical trials and work that needs to go on. And then stayed close to the doctors around the world that were feeding into that. And then you've got a product which is cleared by CE in Europe and FDA in the US, and you start to put it in theatres and get people to use it, train the clinicians. And I think it's great if you can get some of the top guys around the world who are well known in their areas to use it and say, we like this, and get really enthusiastic users and then spread it out. And I think that's all of what I've just described, you can largely do that from like a company in Wales, in Chepstow and in Bath. But then you've got to start travelling the world, and you have to start, people sort of live here and move. So we had the talent, we had the people, we were able to bring people in from other technology companies that had scaled businesses, like Rich Rees, our CFO from SPTS. So we've got good talent locally. We've got a lot of the technology in RF and microwave is actually in the defence industry. There's lots of defence companies in and around South Wales.
So the clustering of talent has been...
Yeah. So you've got the technical expertise, foundational technical expertise. You've got the people. And then you probably need, and then you've got the doctors, the user community. It's going to help you develop it and then help you commercialize it. And then you need capital. And our fundraising round, it's been common theme here, has been original funding was about 2010 from a group of angel investors in Bath who had all been tech entrepreneurs. A lot of them had been tech entrepreneurs, so they'd actually done it, and they put some of their money into Creo. That was great. Then we took some institutional money, Development Bank of Wales or Finance Wales, I think it was then, and that brought us into
Is that how you ended up in Chepstow?
We're in Chepstow and still in Chepstow and in Bath, but head office in Chepstow. And in Chepstow, we've just
was that part of the DevBack investment?
Yeah, but we've just bought the facility and the next door facility in Chepstow for 4.25 million, and just announced that about a week ago. That brought us here, so that's institutional money. And then we got something, I think it was a 20% stake from Hoya Group Pentax Medical in Japan, America, which was the strategic global medical technology industry partner, which says, you know, when you get one of these guys coming in, and that market's got some big players in it, and they all have these funds, so that brought them in. And then we went to AIM, because making medical devices and taking them around the world and getting them used in all the hospitals is an expensive business. So we went to AIM, and AIM's been really good and supportive of us in terms of fundraisings and allowed us to do things. We're now at the stage where we're heavily internationalising the business and putting the commercial footprint down that Drew talked about. So you need, if I say the world's got a lot of people in it, people are broadly the same. They broadly eat, drink and live the same way. Some of those are healthy, some of them are not so healthy. They get ill and there's disease states, and they're largely treated by doctors trained the same way, using broadly the same procedures with similar instruments. But what's different is all the countries are different, all the healthcare systems are different, all the languages, the way they buy things, the procurement methods are different. They all haven't got the NHS. You know about America, and you know about the UK systems. You probably don't know about all the other systems around the world. And so you have to actually indigenise and take it and be close to market, because at the end of the day, there's people in towns and cities that go into local hospitals to see local physicians to have these procedures done. So you've got to be there with them. And so we've done that. So we've done it in two ways. One is through acquisition. So we have a build, venture and buy strategy, because we can't do everything organically. We'd be here too long. There's too many things we can do. We wouldn't be able to do it. So building it ourselves is great. Buying it is great. And venturing or partnering with somebody is great.
When you buy, I guess you're buying product and talent, right?
Yeah, it could be cool technology, it could be product, it could be commercial application. So last year we did acquisitions in Europe. We did a company called Albin Medical, headquarters in Pamplona in Spain. And then we bought Bucart Medical in Belgium.
So it will be bull running for your corporate days out?
It was cancelled. But the, social distancing for bulls. But the, so that's given us direct operations and direct to market in France, Germany, Spain, Belgium, Luxembourg and the UK. So we've got a good coverage in Europe. Access to about 5,000 hospitals, clinics and doctors' surgeries in that region. However, in America, what we've done is we've built it. So we've Dave Woods, who was he did the original investment into Creo for Pentax. He was president of Creo Americas. He joined Creo full-time last year. He'd sat on our board. Chief Commercial Officer, and we're now to about 30 people in America. Head office opening now in America, and a smaller version of that in Asia Pacific, where we've put places down in Hong Kong and soon in Singapore.
Do you have R&D locally as well, or is that done out of?
Do you know what you link up with we've got a lot of R&D done here, but we've got manufacturing in Spain and in Germany. Right. Manufacturing sites in Spain and Germany, and we'll end up with manufacturing sites in other areas. And actually, we've got engineering talent in America that's feeding in here and all over. So it's very easy to collaborate now globally, and you need to collaborate globally. You need to collaborate with leading universities. So we've got a lot of clinical guys in the UK that have worked to help us advance the products, but also in labs in America, which I know Drew will be familiar with having those places out there. And so, yeah, the talent's global. We've got people in Japan that we work with closely. And so you get all the knowledge from around the world, and you just make the best thing, and you be the most meaningful you can in the market. And I don't think there's a single route you can do. I think you need great people. So our commercial people have come in from Pentax and Olympus and Johnson & Johnson and Medtronic and big companies in the industry. and they've got expertise and contacts and connections and a good reputation. But we've got acquisitions through Albin, which got the same as well. And it's whatever makes sense, and you sort of plan what you're going to do and have a big portfolio in front of you. And then some of them advance and some of them go back and they just move in. But so long as you know broadly where you're heading and what makes the most sensible, best way to get there, you need to go there. But you're going to need people always. You're going to need capital. You're going to need really great users and customers. You're going to need to have market share or market reputation to take you the place you got to go. And then you might have headquarters here, but you're then no longer a Welsh technology company. You're a global technology company that is Welsh.
To be from Wales,
and or from a hybrid of Wales and England or wherever. But soon you'll have, like we have people in America chasing us to put down footprints in America, people in northern Spain chasing us to put down footprints in northern Spain. So, but that's great because you're population-based global technology business. That's your market, that's your customer, that's how you advance the business. Quite how you do it doesn't matter. You'll be, 10 people, 100 people, a few thousand people, tens of thousands of people as you do it. Sure. So it's great. It's enjoyable, I can tell you that.
I bet. Listening to you guys talk about it, though, what strikes me is that, for Wales, and you think about this question around how Wales, becomes more of a global tech player, that especially, with what Drew's created is this sort of, what strikes me as this almost vertically integrated ecosystem. So I don't know, Drew, for you, I mean, how does Wales do more of that, if you know what I mean? It's a very easy thing to say, but a very complicated answer, I suspect. But it'd be great to get your insight and your learnings into how do we have more ecosystems like the one you've helped create and stimulate and found?
I think ours was done because there was a need. I don't know if you look at the news today, there's been a big semiconductor chip shortage around the world, and every big nation around the world is supporting their local supply chains for semiconductors because they completely understand that their downstream industries are completely reliant on semiconductor chips. And if they don't have security of supply of those semiconductor chips, then their end industries are put at risk. And so we had this concept of doing that in Wales as a UK sovereign supply chain for semiconductors, advanced semiconductors, as I say, 4 or 5 years ago. And it's getting the buy-in of the various players who can make an impact, from the government, from the Welsh government to the universities. The UK government invested in something called a compound semi-catapult, which is located up in St Mellons as well. There's about 100 people there. And then Swansea University and Cardiff University are putting in place these very large research centres based on industrial principles, which is critical because typically academia would invest in academic kind of things. What they're doing here is they're investing in industrial tool sets so that the students who come through are industry ready. And so there's a phenomenal pipeline then of not only technology, but also of skills, which is critical for advanced technology companies. So it's getting the buy-in of all those different players in the ecosystem to build it into that kind of an ecosystem. So the industrial players, the UK government, Welsh government, universities, and it's all come together really well.
How do you find the competition for talent, Drew? You find that, is it harder, easier than it was 10 years ago, 5 years ago? Is it, what's your real life experience of, recruiting that sort of talent in Wales?
It's been difficult in the past, but one of the reasons for doing this is to actually generate our own talent as much as possible. So there's a big pipeline of talent, and we've focused very much on skills, and skills development has been a key theme for being able to create this.
Right. And Sina, from a startup perspective, to the talent point, how is it? Can you talking people in? There's competition for talent everywhere. So, how have you found it?
Yeah, it was really difficult at the start. I mean, if you look at the kind of journey, you start off with no one, and you've got to find the very first person. And
well, that's you.
Well, other than me, the second person then. So it's all about kind of your network, and people that you meet, advisors, board members, etc. And just through that, I met the first person, Justin Jones, and he joined us. He taught me a lot about business because there's so much you don't know. And
was it a belief in you, do you think? Or was it a belief in the idea? Was he already knew the industry? Where did that conviction come from for him to take the risk, right? Because ultimately it's a risk on his side.
Exactly, yeah. It's a combination of all of those things, really. He believed in the idea and what we were trying to do. I think he liked the pitch that I gave him, and he wanted to do something fun. And a startup,
What was his background? Was he from a corporate background?
His corporate background, he was leading, he was the director of operations at Hodge Bank.
Right.
And yeah, I guess he just wanted to join a startup and build something quickly. So yeah, he came on board, and then we had to hire developers, marketing people, salespeople, and it's tough because you kind of ask people to probably leave something that's quite regimented for them. Everything's secure and safe, and join a chaotic environment. There's no reassurance, that you're even going to be around in a year's time.
Right.
So it's difficult at that, at that time. And then over lockdown, it was even harder because you're trying to scale. You're looking to get as many people as possible, and hiring good talent, especially when you can't even meet them. Yeah, it's difficult, and that risk profile for people rises even more because it's lockdown, businesses shutting down through the pandemic, and moving from one to the other is even riskier. And then, as we've grown, we've reached, we're in a lot of businesses. People are using our platform. Our brand has grown. We've got accolades and awards, and all these kind of things that increase our brand has helped us. Instead of going out and looking for a new position and getting 10 applicants, we get like a few hundred now. Sure. So yeah, it's easier as you get bigger.
Yeah, for sure. And Tony, be curious to know from your Creo's perspective, how does Wales sort of take advantage of someone like yourselves in terms of creating that ecosystem that obviously Drew's helped stimulate and develop and build him? How do we do that more? How do we make that? And what can Wales do to make it, stimulate it for you guys?
I think all the companies have got a part to play in it themselves. I think it comes from the companies and the people and the networks that they create. I was saying earlier that you sort of meet people along the way, and then you can, if you don't know the answer, you can plug them into somebody else. So I think you've got to create the cluster, the network, whether it's in your own industry or something else, and then you can start doing things. So we'll look to make small investments, for example, to help other companies. We might just help somebody with regulatory.
Oh, so you'll do that just to...
Yeah, we'll help people who will look like they're going on the same journey as us, but we're 10 years ahead of them or whatever. That's the right thing to do. It's really important. So I think a lot of it comes out of the businesses and the industry. I think then you need the capital network in there. So we benefited greatly from the angel investor community that had made money on deals in Bath, where Craig Gulliford, our CEO, came. That's where Craig was, and so we benefited from that. So I think the industry piece is important, but technology expertise, global expertise, regulatory expertise, and sharing that and making sure you can link people up. There's a new organisation started called Manufacturing Wales that seeks to do some of that in manufacturing in South Wales. I think we're probably both part of in terms of that. But that helps, making sure there's a funding network in there, and then making sure the government comes along as well. But it's probably slower than the companies. It's probably slower than the angels and the institutions. And then, I think you've just got to build an ecosystem and build it as big and as strong and be recognised globally for it. Make a compound semiconductor, a medtech cluster, a payments cluster. That's what it's got to be. And people will come here for the jobs. The capital will flow here. I mean, it's not Silicon Valley, but that's how those started out of a few big companies like Hewlett-Packard and Intel, in the 60s. So yeah, everybody knows the history of that.
And maybe a fun question to finish. So just a quick one, I guess. But for all of you, if you could wave a magic wand and do one thing to help Wales become, to create more global tech companies out of Wales, what would it be? If there's one thing you could wave a magic wand on, what would it be? Drew, if I put you on the spot, can you go first, or is Sina, you already there? Drew, go.
It's just getting the whole ecosystem energized and act at speed.
Right.
One of the things that I think we don't do well is act at pace, real pace. And
that's what fast decision making.
Except these guys are a great example, I think. Of
fast decision making, execute, raise capital, get going.
Yeah,
that's a great one. Sina, for you?
I think it's probably funding opportunities.
Well, in terms of Wales getting more of a structured funding network.
Exactly, right? Yeah. Which is happening right now. Where it is now compared to where it was even 3 years ago, is night and day. So it's getting there. I mean, I come across so many entrepreneurs right at the start of their journey, and they're looking to raise just the first bit of capital to kickstart a project.
Fantastic.
Yeah, and some of them meet the right people, and they end up raising that funding. Some of them just they can't.
They don't get there.
Yeah, and I see a lot of people going over to London.
But that's also life, right?
That's life. Yeah, it's tough for sure. But like I said, it's improving a lot over here now. So, and I think over the next 5 years, Wales is definitely going to be a hotbed for tech. So,
Great. And Tony, for you, magic thing?
Yeah, Kevin Crofton at SPTS said the great thing about technology in Wales is we just don't tell people about it. We're not very good compared to other countries around the world. He said, when you've got something good, you've got to get out there and tell people about it. And so I'd say that, and I think that needs coaches and mentors, and whether that's other business people that have done it or whether it's government or whoever, people have got to step up and, be confident in the technology they've created, be proud of it, get it out there, show the world, and because if you're American, you'd do that.
Yeah, for sure.
And all the other agencies have got to play their part. All the other characters have got to play their part in that. So,
yeah, thanks, guys. I think that's been, for me, listening to you guys talk about your businesses has been, not just interesting. I think listening to how the ecosystem develops for Wales feels like a massive thing, just in terms of opportunity, network effect, I guess, in terms of just capital being reinvested, talent being attracted. The impact of having successful companies, without question, for Wales, I think, is clear and obvious for anybody. I think, for thinking about how we promote ourselves, I think, Wales Tech Week is a definite great start, right? And, you see, like you say, lots of ecosystems, whether it's the Valley or London or Berlin, they've been doing this for decades. And the fact we're now doing that, you can see pulling people together, I think, and listening to you guys talk about your businesses, I'm sure has been certainly inspiring for me. I'm sure it's been inspiring to everybody listening. So thank you for your time. Thank you for making time. Thank you, Joanna, for making the video earlier for Moneypenny. And we look forward to Wales Tech Week next year and hearing more great stories. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you for watching. Rewatch all of our sessions online. Thank you to our partners.